Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training. Here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. Go to shopgameday.net. You can get anything printed, embroidered, designed for Christmas and get it in plenty of time. This week, we are talking about a topic that we discussed in my Psychology of Coaching class a few weeks ago, and we're talking about who taught you how to focus. As we were going through the chapter and I was talking with the students, I said, how many of you were taught how to focus, or better yet, refocus as you went through school or sports or wherever we are in our careers right now? No hands. How many of you were told to focus or pay attention or concentrate at some point in your careers? All hands. And it got me really thinking. It's like, okay, we know that this is one of the most important things in sport or in life, and yet nobody really teaches us what to do about it. In fact, Abernathy et al., in an article called Attentional Processes in Learning, Skill, and Expert Performance, said this: it's difficult to conceive of any aspect of psychology that may be more central to the enhancement of skill, learning, and expert performance than attention. Attention, focus, concentration, synonymous. We're going to use the word focus, but as Abernathy and friends found, this is one of the most important things that we can teach. And yet we gloss right over it. It's like telling someone to be more confident or telling someone to get their head out of their butt. First of all, if they knew how to do it, they probably wouldn't have to be told that. And who wants to stay not confident? And who wants to play with their head up their butt or not focused? We deal with focus in this house a lot with my 12-year-old, and we're trying to find strategies that work for him, that work for us as well. But here are some things we can do. There are some things that we can do, actually. So as I was teaching this, and then I was working with a couple of my athletes last week, two of them came to mind as I wrote this today. One of them is working on better pitch selection. And she doesn't pick the right pitch, not because she can't see or not because she doesn't know what a strike is, but because she gets distracted. When she's in a 3-1 count and the next pitch comes by and it's ball 4, but she swings at it, she now is distracted from what she's doing because she's frustrated or embarrassed or is thinking like, oh my gosh, that was ball 4, I could have walked. And now she's not focused. My other athlete is a college basketball player, and her deal is that she's not playing, so she's frustrated. Number one, she's playing for one of the best teams in the country, but she's a sophomore, so she doesn't realize that sometimes it takes time, right? Even Tim Tebow didn't play till he was a senior, and he was one of the best college football quarterbacks of his time. We need to remember those things. But she gets lost in where she's supposed to be on the court. And it's not because she doesn't have the physical talent. In fact, she's got talent coming out of her ears. Both of these kids do. They're amazing athletes. But their ability to be where they need to be when they need to be there is what makes them struggle. So it's not about whether we know what to do. It's about whether we can do what we need to do when we need to do it. Moran, in an article in 2004, defines focus as this, concentration. Concentration refers to a person's ability to exert deliberate mental effort on what is most important in any given situation. Most important are the operative words. We're always focused on something, but those that can focus on what's most important are the ones that make the most headway, whether that's on the field, or whether that's in a meeting, or whether that is in a conversation. If we can focus on what's important, we save time, energy, and all kinds of problems. If it were only so easy. But here's the problem. Our mind wanders almost 50% of the time. Research says it's 47% of the time our mind is wandering. When I talk to my basketball coaches, I'm reminding them that half the time, so 20 minutes of the game, we don't even know where they are. They're not focused on what's most important. And you know where they are because you go there too. They're focused on what just happened. They're focused on what might happen. They're focused, as Dr. Rob Gilbert says, on what's the acronym WWOPS, what other people will say. And when we are in those time zones or we're in that mode, we're not present. And we know this, our body can only operate in the present. I can't breathe 2 breaths from now already. I can't breathe 2 breaths that I've already had. It only operates now. And we are our best when our mind and our body are working together. But in order to do that, we have to be focused. And that is where the problem comes in. So I pulled this from the book that I use in my class. It's The Foundation of Sport and Exercise Psychology by Weinberg and Gold. And they give us a solid picture of what focus or concentration is. Number 1, it's focusing on relevant cues in the environment. That's selective attention. Number 2, it's maintaining attentional focus over time. Number 3, it's having awareness of the situations and performance errors. And number 4, it's shifting attentional focus when necessary. These are all the components that we're trying to stay in as we're being, bombarded by, thousands, if not millions of stimuli and different variables that lie in front of us, not only in the external environment, but even more detrimentally in our internal environment. And we've talked a ton about the amygdala, our alarm system, a lot. And unfortunately, when we're under pressure or stress, that is what's driving us. But the prefrontal cortex is what drives our focus. So we've got to be able to shut that amygdala down some so that we can use our thinking brain to be able to pick up the cues that we need, whether we're really thinking about them or not. But we've got to be able to have that brain sort of settled so that we can get the information we need. I talk to my soccer players all the time about scanning and looking at shape and opportunity. It's the same thing in basketball. It just goes a little bit quicker. Right? And even whether you're a baseball, softball player, or a golfer, I don't care what you are, knowing what is out there and reading those cues, this is where the game's played. The game is not played in here. It's played out here. But there are several ways that we can work on our focus. One of them is something that we've been talking all semester long in my coaching communication class, is talking about external cues. And in the language of coaching by Nick Winkelman, he makes a great case for coaches using cues that are related to something outside of the body. So instead of thinking about where my elbow is when I'm hitting, I'm thinking more about the path of the ball, or where I want the path of the ball to go, or the path of the ball that's coming into me. I'm looking and externally focusing on something even a little bit further away from me than something that's even in my hand. So maybe not even thinking about my bat head, I'm thinking about the path of the ball, or where the path of the ball is going to go after my bat head hits it. Same thing with golf. The more we focus on something outside of us, and the further that is away from us, the better we perform. And that is research proven. But unfortunately, research shows that Division I coaches, this is the study on Division I coaches, I'm sure it goes across all divisions and all ages, they tend to provide cues that send people inward. I know when I first got to Akron, we were talking about hitting with the athletes, and all they were talking about was where their hands were and where their elbow was and where their foot was and all these different things. And all they were thinking about was boom, 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 all this mechanical stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, let's think about the path of the ball, because they were popping it up a lot. I'm like, oh, that's easy out. So we've got to get away from thinking about what our hands are doing. Why? Why this small distinction in the cues that we're using? Well, when we think about what our body is doing, our muscles work differently. They actually work against each other more than if we're focused on external cues. So it slows us down when we're on the inside, and it speeds us up and makes us more efficient and more powerful when we're thinking about external cues. A fascinating thing in the book, and this isn't in the tips, so you're getting a little extra today. A fascinating thing in the book was about Parkinson's patients. They said if a Parkinson's patient picks up his or her leg, and thinks about lifting the knee and extending the foot out to take a step, they can't do it. But if someone says step over the line, they can do it, because their brain knows, and it doesn't go through it goes through a different process of sending signals to the muscles on what they're supposed to do. That thought of that internal cue of that I have to pick up my leg and that I have to extend makes it almost impossible for them to do. But that they know what they need to do just instinctually to just step over a line, and they're able to do it. I thought that was absolutely fascinating. This external cue thing gets me to this book that I'm reading right now, and it's a really good book. It's called The Outward Mindset by the Arbinger Institute. And this discusses the transformational benefits of switching from an inward view or mindset to an outward mindset as a leader. And this is where leaders prioritize others, and they look at the situation around them and the people around them and everything around them to make decisions, instead of being sort of self-centered or self-reliant or thinking about their own goals. So this whole external view of things around us is not only good for us in focus, but it's good for us in leadership. But being outside of ourselves is really, really helpful. Think about how you are when you're all up in your own head. Sometimes it's really not pretty. So to add to this external thing, Belak, who was actually the president at Dartmouth, did a ton of research on choking. And what she found is that when athletes overanalyze physical movements and specifics of tasks related to performance, it breaks down their movement patterns. When we get into pressure situations, our thinking brain takes over too much. Now, we don't want the amygdala on, but we don't want to be thinking boom, 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 because it slows us down. The things that are automatic, the things we've practiced a million times, become mechanical, and we shorten up, or whatever it is, we shorten up just a little bit on our follow through, we shorten up a little bit here, whatever it is, and that mechanical sort of thinking, processed, staccato movement decreases our ability to perform, slows us down, gives us more time to second guess. And second guessing never works. Think about how many times you took a test and you erased the answer and the one you had down first was right. Because sometimes we just have to go with what we know. So we know that thinking about external cues and the ways that we instruct can help change our focus and enhance our performance. But what happens when we're in the thick of it and we've got to make a shift right now? Well, my softball player that I'm working with is working on her pitch selection. She is learning and implementing the physiological sigh. If you haven't heard me talk about that before, Google it. It's a simple way and the number one way to reduce your stress response. It's a simple breathe in, fill them up, take an extra sniff in, pop open all those little sacs in your lungs, and then exhale fully out. Everything gets you back into chill zone. It is a great tool, and she's practicing it outside of at-bats and outside of games so that when the 3-1 pitch comes in and she swings at ball 4, right then and there, she knows it's time to do something to change her mind and her physiology and get herself shifted back into focus. Not about what just happened, but about what is important right now. And if she can use a physiological tool to do that, to enhance her, get her body to work for her and to get her mind to shift, win. That's a win. My basketball player, she's going to talk out loud. She's going to narrate, or she's going to talk about what she wants, or she's going to talk about helping someone else, back to the outward mindset. She is getting out of herself and into the game. I watched some film and she just got blown by by a kid where I don't even think she knew where she was. But if she had been talking about where the ball was and where a player was, and just talk, not even thinking, but just narrating what she saw, she would have known that she should have taken a drop step and changed her position on defense. And it would have stopped the kid from driving to the hole. Plain and simple. But where she was not where her feet were. And that did not help her performance in this specific case. But both these tools are so simple. And we have to start small. We don't want to get stressed out about our reset or our shifting tool. But both of these can be done in an instant. And you, whether you're a director of a business or a CEO or a coach, you can change the way you instruct as well and give feedback to get people thinking about what's outside of them that they can either use to their advantage or their ability to make a change, instead of getting stuck in here and being a navel gazer or whatever it is, a time traveler from one place to another and not being where their feet are. We demand that people focus. So if we're going to demand that people focus, then we better teach them how to get to their focus, whatever their focus means. We know when that arousal level goes up, when something went wrong, just like my hitter, when she swings at that ball 4, when that arousal level goes up, that amygdala gets turned on, we get hijacked from our attention, and we need to be able to pull it back. And without a tool, we are setting ourselves up for self-doubt, frustration, mistakes, and lesser performance. But if we can teach focus, we can empower people. We can help them navigate their distractions. We can help them bounce back from their mistakes. And we can help them be more resilient under pressure. Simple tools on getting people to understand that you can move your focus from here to here anytime you want. But you've got to practice it before you get into stress, because under stress, we don't make good decisions. But if we have a routine or we have a tool, then we know we can count on that, because we know that we can change our minds and the way our body works at any moment if we're prepared. So what's your focus technique going to be? How are you going to change the way you teach people around you to focus or refocus, more importantly? That's the goal for the week. If you're going to the NFCA convention, I'll look forward to seeing you next week already. The pre-convention seminar on building your toolkit. Some of these things will be helpful to us as well. If you haven't signed up yet, you can still do that. There's a link at ssbperformance.com/blog in this week's tip. Check it out. I'd love to see you there. And if you have any thoughts or comments or anything that you would like to discuss, shoot me an email, juliej@ssbperformance.com. And until next week, have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy a little bit of downtime, and I'll see you next week.